Hey everybody, welcome to the Phillies Talk Podcast presented by Team Toyota. Hope you're having a good weekend. I'm Corey Seidman, he's Jim Salisbury. I wanted to apologize if you had some audio issues with the podcast the other day. I think you know why it happened, and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. But Jim, so the Phillies on Saturday were in Lakeland to take on the Tigers. It was a high-scoring game, but I guess the biggest story of the day came early. Zack Eflin on the hill making his long-awaited return. He had knee surgery in the middle of last summer, and he looked pretty good, huh?
He did. He looked very good, and it's an important storyline of camp here. Zack Eflin, huge year coming up for him in 2022, both team-wise. Obviously, we think starting pitching, if healthy, can be one of the calling cards of this team, and he's a huge piece of that. Um, and they need him. They really missed him last year over the final 2 months when he went down, final 2.5 months. And it's also a huge year for him personally. He'll be a free agent at the end of the year. And we know the riches that can come along with that if he stays healthy and delivers. But first and foremost, it's about 2022. It's about helping this team. And he had, knee surgery back in September to repair or fix a pretty severe case of patellar tendonitis. He had his patella tendon repaired surgically. He had a surgical tack put in his kneecap to hold everything in place. And after that surgery, the team was saying sometime in May, because you're going to have to go easy with him. He's going to have to build his rehab up, but I mean, he just crushed it in the rehab program this winter, all on his own because of the lockout. He couldn't stay in touch with team personnel like trainers. He went out and hired his own physical therapist. He lives over in the Orlando area, and he just got after it. And he reported to camp. Camp opened late because of the lockout, but he reported ahead of schedule. He had already thrown bullpens. The team wanted to put some eyeballs on him, so they slowed him down a little bit, but they like what they're seeing now. He got back on a mound today in a competitive situation for the first time since July 16th and had two really good innings. Hit 94 on the gun, one walk, immediately got rid of that runner on a double play ball, one strikeout. Just, kind of looked like Zack Eflin. So really good to see because the Phillies really, really need him. So he mentioned it was, kind of a relief. Joe Girardi said it was kind of a relief. Eflin actually, he said he got a little emotional kind of walking back to the clubhouse, just thinking of what, not being there for his team over the final 2 months of last year, all he had been through, another surgery, and just never know if you're going to be yourself again. He said he got a little emotional as he just thought about how positive today was after all he had been through. So, yeah, very interesting day over there in Lakeland.
Zack Eflin made a comment, I guess, that if this is his last year with the Phillies, he wants to go out and make every start with them. And that's something that he hasn't been able to do. This knee issue that he's had, it's not the first time he dealt with it. It was something that was a big issue earlier in his career. But, Zack Eflin's had 6 big league seasons at this point. He's only had 1 year exceeding 130 innings. So this is a huge year for him. He has a lot to prove. He wants to help the team. As you said, he also wants to boost his free agent status because he has all the tools are there. Big right-hander with a power sinker, misses bats. He's become more of a strikeout pitcher as his career has gone on without sacrificing really any of the control. So big year for Zack Eflin. It's also
and you're right. I mean, the big thing that's missing on his resume is putting a complete season together because of the injuries. And if there's ever a time for one, it's right now. They've improved their offense. They're going to score runs. They need to pitch. They need to get starting pitching. They need to play defense. Defense is a big issue on this team. You got sinker ballers in Gibson, Eflin, Wheeler throws a sinker. Nola got away from it last year, but he's got a pretty good sinker. So they need good infield defense behind these guys. And Zack Eflin needs to finally put together that healthy season for just a lot of reasons.
And I saw you also threw out a video of Zack Wheeler facing Bryce Harper back in Clearwater on Saturday. So I guess Wheeler is making some progress too, huh?
Yeah. Well, what did you think of my video skills?
They're great. They're always great. I mean, especially when you can get your thumb at the top of the screen. That's always recommended.
My thumb is usually in there in the shot. But yeah, I just took a quick little video because it was kind of neat. He was facing Bryce Harper in a live BP session. You had, the MVP of the National League against the guy who should have won the Cy Young in the National League, the runner-up, on a Saturday morning, beautiful Saturday morning in Clearwater. So, Yeah, in addition to Eflin being good news on the pitching front Saturday, Zack Wheeler was good news because he felt good. So he's beginning to ramp up. You got three guys who are behind: Eflin, Wheeler, and Ranger Suarez, but they're going to carry extra pitchers. So they may, if they're healthy, and I think if the team feels like they're on a good track, I think there's a chance they'll all start sometime in that first week. They'll just be abbreviated starts, like extended, like they would maybe their third, fourth, or fifth spring training start. They're going to have to pull them back workload wise and rely on their bullpen a little bit. I think that's kind of a plan that's under serious consideration. So good news for Wheeler today. Felt good, and through my little lens, looked pretty good.
The Phillies game itself was one of those spring training slugfests that take forever. Rhys Hoskins went deep for the second time in 3 days, and so did Mickey Moniak, who's an interesting figure. Joe Girardi had said earlier in camp that Moniak wasn't really in that center field battle, but this is prior to Odubel Herrera's injury. Where does he factor in at this point? Is Moniak potentially fighting for a bench spot? I'd imagine he's helping his cause over this last week.
Oh, it's definitely helping his cause. He's in the hunt, I would say, for a bench job, but I don't think he's in the hunt for that center field platoon, which might not even be a platoon at the get-go because Matt Vierling is swinging it really well, and he looks like he's hungry to take that job. But Moniak played right field today. On Thursday, him and Rhys Hoskins both hit home runs, big home runs. I mean, squared up big boy home runs over in Bradenton. Today, 2 days later, they both hit even bigger home runs, bombs in Lakeland, which is a big ballpark. Moniak has moved a little closer to the plate, made a little bit of an adjustment, and it looks like it's working a little bit. Certainly, it's got to help his confidence as he maybe vies for a job on the bench as an outfielder, or if he goes to AAA or whatever. He just needs to, he's a guy who just needs to put it together. He needs to forget about being the top overall pick in 2016 and just try to go out and be a good player. Get that out of his head. And I think he's done that. But it's telling when Joe says he's really not in the mix for the center field job. I think a lot of that has to do with the defense. They don't maybe think he can cover that ground adequately enough at the big league level. I mean, if they keep having breakdowns, they might have to look at him. You never say never, but it looks like Vierling, Adam Hazley, maybe as Odubel Herrera continues to heal. But Moniak, he hit an 0-1, or was it 1-0? It was the second pitch today, fastball from Matt Manning, and he just crushed it. You could tell it was going off the bat. And it's a big ballpark over here in Lakeland. Hit it off the batter's eye. And then the next inning, Hoskins came up also against the right-hander Manning, and just absolutely annihilated the ball. Moniak hit his 430 feet, according to the in-game metrics. Hoskins hit his like 441 feet, absolutely murdered it. And he hit it to the right, just to the right side of the batter's eye. And that's where he hit it the other day in Bradenton. And he just absolutely crushed this ball. And when he's hitting the ball that way, kind of like between what you would call dead center and maybe between where the second baseman plays, the position of second base, in that little wedge there, when he's hitting the ball there, his swing is right on. And I'm telling you, he crushed this ball. It was like, wow. And the whole ballpark went, wow. So, and he's on the list to play again Sunday over in Dunedin. And they'll have some of their big guns. Castellanos is supposed to play. Hoskins, Harper's supposed to play. Realmuto's supposed to play. So, the compressed schedule, they're getting guys in there. We're going to see more and more guys here. But Hoskins swinging it pretty good.
He was swinging it pretty good when his season ended last year. I mean, you remember he was carrying the Phillies offense at that point.
Yeah,
Bryce Harper too. But, Hoskins in that last month before the injuries, final 90 at bats, he had 10 homers, 13 doubles, drove in 27 runs in 26 games. He hit 333 over that span with a 1,300 OPS. So that's a guy the Phillies really missed down the stretch last season. And when you think about all the other offensive additions they've made, Rhys Hoskins qualifies as an offensive addition, at least compared to the final month last season. And then so for moving from Hoskins to another middle of the order bat, Nick Castellanos, everybody's been wondering when his Phillies spring training debut is going to be. It looks like it's going to be tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, that's the plan. according to Joe Girardi, and he says he's going to play left field. Girardi has said that Schwarber, who played today in Lakeland left field, will probably be the primary left fielder, but Castellanos will get time there, get time in right field when Harper DHs, and he'll get time at the DH, so they'll kind of rotate those guys. I think he's really here for his bat. And interestingly, Corey, and it'll be fun to see him play tomorrow. There's a lot of anticipation to see Nick Castellanos play Sunday, and like I said, they're kind of bringing most of their A lineup. So there could be some offensive fireworks because, as we know, when you're at home in spring training, you're going to play your regulars. So the Blue Jays are going to play that thunderous lineup. So it could be a interesting day, especially if the wind is blowing out over there in Dunedin at that small ballpark. But interestingly, Castellanos again today was out there on that half field, that infield, practice infield, taking ground balls at third base under the tutelage of Bobby Dickerson. Larry Boa put some eyeballs on him. Joe put some eyeballs on him. Everybody continues to insist there's nothing to this, that it's an exercise. But look, I really believe they're trying to get their arms around the situation of whether he could ever do it in a pinch, whether it could ever be an option worth talking about. And because they're kind of easing him into camp, I think they have the luxury of having a few days, a little bit of time to do that. So, not sure he could ever do it. As you pointed out the other day, he didn't play well over there in early in his career, and he hasn't done it since 2017. I'd say it's a real long shot. But as the team continues to say it's really nothing, he continues to take balls over there. So, obviously they're trying to gauge something. To me, it's interesting.
Is it unusual in your experience? I mean, you've been in Clearwater every year for however many years at this point. Is it unusual in your experience to see an outfielder warm up like that, take ground balls? I mean, there's that question. There's also the question of, like, if there's nothing to it, why is it happening on day one? Why is it
Right.
happening in week one? I mean, that certainly paints a different picture.
There's nothing to it. I think they're framing it around. They don't expect him to play there, but I do think there's something to it, and that they're just gauging what he looks like over there in case it ever had to happen or could ever be a possibility down the road. I mean, third base is hardly locked down for this team. It'll be Bohm or Camargo, but it's hardly locked down. They're both still vying for that position. There's schools of thought. Maybe you bring Bohm so you don't shatter his confidence and you see what he can do. Because if you sent him right out to AAA, it might really hurt his confidence. I don't know what they're going to do. It would really, I think, everybody the Phillies officials would be really happy if Bohm would kind of seize that job and go off for about 10 days. I think everybody would feel better, but it hasn't happened yet. It just seems to me like they're trying to just figure out if it could ever be a possibility. Because third base is in flux. Like I said, they hope it's not going to be in flux, and also because it would be a landing spot for him if it ever got complicated. If another bat emerged that they wanted to use as DH, if they wanted to try to get another bat in the lineup. So there's nothing to it, but it keeps happening. And now that he's in games, maybe it won't happen anymore. I don't know, but it was something interesting that occurred Saturday morning. But Sunday, Dunedin, he'll play left field, according to Joe.
Just something to keep an eye on. I know Jim's going to be staking out that practice infield to see if Castellanos keeps taking ground balls. The last guy I wanted to ask you about is Scott Kingery, who was reassigned to minor league camp yesterday. We've talked about him. He's also coming back. He's also been rehabbing, so he's a little behind as well. But how does he factor into 2022? Is this a situation where you think he could spend most of the year at the minors and come up if there's an injury need?
To be determined how he factors into 2022. How he needs to approach 22 is take care of Scott Kingery. Get healthy. He had a pretty serious shoulder injury, pretty serious shoulder operation. They put 4 surgical tacks in his right shoulder to fix his labrum. So he's not really ready to play the field, but when he is, which won't be far away, he'll mostly concentrate on second base. He needs to go down there and just forget about the contract, forget about the 3, up and down seasons in the big leagues, forget about coming off the 40, and he needs to play good. He needs to play good. He needs to, he's going to play in AAA. He needs to be a real difference maker on the field most nights in AAA, so he gets back on the big team's radar if they ever have a need. That's how he needs to approach it. I still think he's young enough and talented enough if you clean up that swing to get back to the major leagues. But he needs to focus on getting completely healthy. He's on a good path there, and just play good. Forget about Philadelphia. Forget about the big leagues. Focus on wherever you are. If you're in Lehigh Valley, try to be the best player on that team every night and force their hand. If there's a breakdown in Philadelphia, force their hand that you're the best player and you're the next guy that has to come to the big leagues, or force their hand that another team is interested in you. Maybe they can work a deal out. I know he's owed a lot of money, but if it all goes back to that old saying: if you're playing good, they'll find a place for you. If you hit, they'll find a place for you, and that's what he needs to focus on. Nothing else. Play good and see where it takes you.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this Phillies Talk podcast. Thanks a lot for listening. The Phillies have the Blue Jays tomorrow in Dunedin, and it'll be the debut of Nick Castellanos, the spring training debut. Jim and I will be back afterward to talk about what it looked like. So appreciate you listening. Catch you tomorrow.